Royal salute! Reason out!
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I'm Fitzroy, and you are?
My name is DERENALAG.
Where are you from, sir?
I'm from the islands of the Fiji Islands in the Pacific Islands, which is close to Australia and New Zealand. But originally, I was born and raised in the town called Nadi in Fiji, which is located on the western side of the Fiji Islands.
Any siblings?
I do have siblings. I have half brothers from my mother's side. Yes, I do.
What school did you attend, sir?
I attended Andrews Government School, which is now the Andrews Primary School in Nadi. And then after that, I went on to secondary school. I went on to an Indian school or Asian school, which is Nadi Muslim College. And then a senior secondary school in Suva, Fiji, which is the capital of Fiji.
As it relates to your military background, how did you first become aware of the armed forces, the army to be specific?
Well, growing up in Fiji, we always hear about the British forces coming into Fiji and then recruiting the Fijians in the 1960s. And then some of the story that we heard over the years when I was growing up about some Fijians that joined, and that's where I heard about the story about the British forces. And also we hear it, we read on the news, because back then there was no TV where I grew up. No TV, so all we did was reading the papers. The yesteryear's papers that been stacked around in the village, in the homes, or when we read that, we read about the news about the British forces. That's where I heard about.
Did you do your selection back in Fiji, or you did it here?
I did my selection in Fiji, but part of the selection back in 1999, and then I came here at the beginning of 2000 to do the real selection, and then joined the army after that.
What corps were you?
I was in the infantry battalion. I first joined the Royal Gloucestershire Berkshire Wiltshire Regiment, which is the RGBW, and later the regiment amalgamated with the Devon and Dorset Regiment and formed the One Rifle. So before the amalgamation, I left the regiment because then my regiment was based in West London in Hounslow Barracks or Cavalry Barracks. I have to leave the regiment to join another regiment that was coming into West London because my regiment was about to move posted to another part of the UK, which was in Chester, in Dale Barracks. So I have to transfer to another regiment. The reason being because my wife was working in London, and that's the reason why we just want to be in London, because of my wife's work, and that's why I had to change the regiment from the RGBW or the Royal Gloucestershire Berkshire Wiltshire Regiment to the Woofers or the Worcestershire and Shield Force Regiment, which is now the 2nd Battalion, the Mason Regiment. And I believe at this moment it's the Mason Regiment.
But let's rewind a bit back to your basic training. If you can recall week 1, day 1, what was it like for you then?
If I can recall my days in training, day 1, week 1, over like 25 years ago now. It was tough, it was really hard, especially coming from Fiji. I had no experience of living in another part of the world apart from Fiji. So the thing was different, was a time difference. The weather was cold, because Fiji, we don't experience this cold. It's all like warm weather, it's tropical like the Caribbeans. And the food was different as well. The language barrier, because back then, living from Fiji, because I didn't have a good background educational background, I didn't have that. Even though I reached a standard like year 13, I believe, in Fiji. And that was it, that was my educational background. So when I came here, because of the language barrier, the culture and everything, it was really, really tough. Because when I joined in, there were 6 of us, Fijian boys, back then, when we joined the regiment all at once. So It was very difficult, but the thing is, because I had my 5 other brothers in the training camp, that we had to like look after each other, and we share things. The difficulty that I have to go through, I shared with the other 5 brothers, and they shared theirs as well. So that was the good thing joining the army back then, over 25 years ago. But I had those brothers that we help each other along the way.
Understand. As it relates to the physical side of basic training, how did you cope with you mentioned about the weather. How did you cope with the cold? How did you go about climatization?
Yeah, the first few weeks was really hard, because when I joined in like beginning of the year. It was early February. Coping with the weather, it was difficult. The first few, I would say the first 2 to 3 weeks, because my body was adapting to the weather, the different time zone. But after that, I got used to it very quickly. The reason being because I was at the time I was young, very athletic as well. I was a sporty person as well. And it wasn't easy. The physical training wasn't that hard, but it was the language barrier that was difficult back then.
Your passing out parade, it is a landmark that a lot of people didn't expect to ever reach. The passing out parade stood on the parade square, hundreds of persons looking at you. How did you felt on your passing out parade?
Well, the passing off parade was really special, because I never thought that one day I'll be wearing the British Armed Forces uniform to represent or to fight for the Queen and country. It was an honor to go through the training. I think back then I spent like 16 weeks training, as there was like the phase 1 training, like basic army training. So it took us 16 weeks to go through that. So when I was standing on a drill square, it was emotional, and at the same time I was really proud of what I have achieved, because I knew back then that I wouldn't be going back to Fiji, because where I came from I came from a very poor background, and work wasn't good, and the pay as well back then 25 years ago. So that's the other reason why I joined the army, because it was really difficult. So on the drill square, on the passing of parade day, I was really proud of myself and my other 5 brothers that I was with on the day.
Yeah. Turning about your unit, it's an infantry unit. I really don't know the ins and outs of an infantry unit, but you'd have a vast amount of experience based on the time that you've been there. But when you first turn up at your unit, what struck you when you turn up at your unit? Did you feel welcome at your unit?
I remember leaving Catterick Garrison, because when I finished my phase 2 training up north, I remember on a Friday night I have to fly from East Midlands Airport to fly to Belfast City Airport, because my region was based in Ballykinlan back then in Northern Ireland. And I remember flying off on a Friday evening, landing there, and then straight into camp. I had people that came to wait for me at the airport. They took me straight to, because I was the only one, took me straight in a car, straight into the camp. I was allocated a room, accommodation, and then I said, this will be a room for this weekend, and then we'll allocate your permanent room in the next few days. And then they said, you have to be ready by 6 in the morning. So I remember reaching my room after like midnight on a Friday evening. Then early Saturday morning, I was ready like by 6 to go to training. It's like the Northern Ireland training. And then I did the whole day training, and then straight into work on Sunday morning. Wow. It was like from training into the army camp and straight into to take a role as a soldier on like 2 days after that. So I didn't meet the whole battalion or the regiment like after a few days later, because I went straight into work. And it wasn't easy, it was challenging, because I wasn't looking forward to that, because I was told after passing off from my phase 2 training that I'll have like a week or 2 rest, but I'll be spending that in camp in Ballykinlan, Northern Ireland. But that wasn't the case. I went straight in on Friday, straight into work on a Sunday. Yeah.
Wow. You'd have done multiple exercises as well as tours. Would you like to talk to us about your tours that you've been in?
Yeah, I've done a lot of tour of duty. Basically one was in Belfast. It wasn't easy, it was a tough place then, back then, over 25 years ago. Cultures and things that involved back then. And because of the difference between the churches, the Protestant and the Catholics, and it was really hard back then. And they have this Orange March every March of every year, and as a soldier we are tasked to do that, like to be there to protect. I mean keep security of the whole place, and it wasn't an easy thing to do, because you get sworn at, they get petrol bombs thrown at you, they even like fire at you, like not constantly, but it wasn't easy. And that was my experience of working and facing that very tough environment. And then apart from that, we left Belfast or Northern Ireland, came into West London, and then did a lot of exercise all over the country, up in Scotland, down in Salisbury, and many other parts of the UK that we went to training, and also to Kenya. But apart from the tour of duty, I would say Kosovo was one of the tough places that I went to in 2004, and then Afghanistan 2005, and then 2006, and then 2007 again in Afghanistan. So it wasn't easy. It was tough, especially leaving my wife behind at home, and it does affect the family as well. I mean, leaving the wife and going away and coming back, it does like affect life as a family man, as a family. So I would say it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy living, especially because we were like, as an infantry soldier, we were constantly going on exercise, going on tour of duty, and then you just come home, spend like a few weeks, you have to go back again, and then it was like that since. Because my wife is from Fiji as well, so when she joined, she thought I would be at home like every afternoon, but it wasn't the case.
Sorry. You're a double amputee. Could you talk us through that? Could you explain what happened, if you can recall?
Yeah, well, I lost both of my legs in Afghanistan in 2007, in Helmand province. That's when the things were just like kicking up in Afghanistan. And I was the second double amputee to come out from Afghanistan in 2007. So yeah, it was like a normal routine patrol when we were tasked to go and clear a helicopter landing site. And that happened, the patrol time was during like very early hours of the morning. It was before dawn, before sunrise. So early morning, I wasn't expecting that to happen, but it did happen. We got involved in a bomb blast, and then resulted in me losing both of my legs and suffering other multiple injuries.